welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first long form reading review. I'm hoping I don't mess up. I'm a little bit nervous, but let's get into it. So as you can see, I read Rouge. Now this is very different from my normal reads. Usually I read a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy. You know, I love stuff with dragons, magic, adventures. But one of my goals for 2025 was to read more books from other genres. So I'm reading contemporary literature, nonfiction. I used to run from nonfiction, but I recently joined a nonfiction book club and I realized I was so wrong about nonfiction. I thought it was boring in the past, but now I realize there's a lot of good nonfiction out there. So thanks to the book club, I will at least be reading one nonfiction book a month, maybe more, like other nonfiction books that's like not connected to the book club, because I'm really getting into that genre. I also want to read, I'm starting to read some romance as well. I don't think romance will ever be like one of my favorite genres, but I'm starting to like read some books in that genre. I want to get into horror and thrillers. There's so many different like horror and thriller books out, so I'm just like deciding which ones to start with. But let's get into Rouge. So if I could sum up this book or my feelings of this book in one word, it is strange. This book is very, very strange. There's no other way to, or at least no other way for me to describe this other than this is a very strange novel. Now, from what I understand, I think Bunny is supposed to be very strange as well. I also bought both Bunny and Rouge at the same time. I think Bunny is slightly more popular, or at least I've seen more reviews for Bunny that pop up on my timeline versus Rouge. But I know that they're both insanely popular. I decided to read Rouge first before Bunny because it stood out to me more, intrigued me more. I studied marketing in school a little while ago, and you know, they taught us some stuff about like color theory, the importance of like images and ads and like the psychology behind it. And honestly, like I think the color choice for this is impeccable. I love the pop of red against the black. I love the image of like it's both a flat rose, and if you turn it the upside down, obviously it's a red octopus. Both roses and octopuses have so much meaning and are brought up constantly throughout this book. But of course, if you haven't read it yet, you have no idea. So like when I saw it, I just thought like, this looks really beautiful. What does the rose mean? Why does it kind of look like that? And then even the title Rouge, it's, you know, it doesn't really tell you much of anything. It's just kind of mysterious. So like I was really drawn to it for that. So when I picked it up, I read the back and I thought it sounded really good. I liked the little blurb at the back of this more than Bunny. So I was really excited to get into this. And it was definitely different than what I thought it was going to be. I don't think anyone could accurately predict what this book was going to be about or what was going to happen in this book. It definitely took me for a wild ride. You feel like you're in sort of like this dream, like you're in a dream the entire time. You're not entirely sure what's happening, what's real. This is magical realism, but when it's like when you're going through the different chapters, you're not entirely sure if this is actually magic or if there's something else going on, like there's some logical explanation for everything. It's not till like you get close to the end of the book that you get like a real answer to, no, is this happening inside her mind? Is she being drugged? Is this magic? Like, what is happening here? Thankfully, yes, you do find out at the end. I felt like the ending was really well done. But I actually have some notes. I don't have them with me right now. Let me just pull them out because I arranged some notes the last night to sort of organize my thoughts. I wanted to have like different categories to talk about different themes throughout the book. So just because this is actually my second time filming this. The first time I felt was like way too scattered, and I was all over the place, so like I wanted to be much more organized this time around. So I have my notes with me, so let's start off with race. So race was a big part of this novel. The main character, Belle, she is a biracial woman. Her mother is a French Canadian and her father is Egyptian. Unfortunately, her father passes when she's very young, so she doesn't really have, and it doesn't sound like she is in contact with any of his family. So she has really no real connection to Egypt or Egyptian or Middle Eastern or North African culture. And you could see that that has like a big effect on her. She's very ashamed to be Middle Eastern, to be Egyptian. She wants to be like her mother. She sees her mother as being like really beautiful, and she equates her mother's beauty to her being white. She often talks about her mother's white skin as well as her beautiful red hair. And in contrast, when she talks about herself, she talks about her coarse, like ugly hair. Like, I think like when I see really thick hair, I would describe it one as thick, luscious, full, voluminous, like a lot of positive words. Those are not words that she uses both as a child and as an adult. She describes it as being like ugly and coarse, and she can't run brushes through it. And that was like really sad to hear her talk about herself. Oh, and her skin. She doesn't like the fact that she has, tanned skin, unlike pale white skin like her mother and other people that she considers to be beautiful. So let me get into some more of these notes. Oh yes, she is also, of course, as I mentioned, she lives in Quebec. So she's primarily surrounded by other white European people. And I think, she often feels othered because of that. Not to mention her mother others her. Her mother kind of like lives in this sort of like fairy tale dreamland where she wants to become like this big Hollywood actress. So she wants to leave Quebec and like move to California and like become this huge actress. She also kind of like romanticizes having an Egyptian daughter to the point where she fetishizes her daughter. She's constantly like showing off her Egyptian daughter to people, which obviously makes Belle feel very uncomfortable because like no one likes to be put, on display for someone. And she obviously doesn't want her Egyptian heritage to be kind of like brought up. She'd rather just be seen as like a French Canadian girl. And her mother doesn't really allow that. And it's very sad. But one thing I will say too, I kind of thought about this after the first video I posted. While Belle is ashamed of her Egyptian heritage, it seemed like the mother was ashamed of her French heritage, because while Belle was growing up, we get a lot of flashbacks to Belle's upbringing, particularly when she was like around the age like 8, 9, and 10. And her mother, even though she's French and even though she lives in Montreal, only spoke English at home. Belle only started to speak French later on, like in her teen years when she was living with her grandmother, because her grandmother insisted that she speak French all the time. There's even like a phone call between Belle and her mother. Her mother's in California at the time when she's in her teen years. Belle is still in Quebec, and she's speaking to the mother in French. And there's like a pause where the mother doesn't say anything and then kind of like starts speaking French back to her. So you get the impression that she really doesn't enjoy speaking French. Belle mentions that the mother only speaks French at home when she's like angry or really emotional. So it's almost like she reverts back to her first language. But if she's like consciously thinking about it, she will only speak English to her. Now, maybe that's partly because she wants to be a Hollywood actress, so she knows like films would be in English, so she wants to get used to speaking English. But I suspect that there's like, we don't honestly find out a lot about the mother's childhood, but there's hints here and there that there were certain things that happened to her that probably caused her to be, pretty messed up as an adult. So like, she wanted to like run away from who she was, I guess, as a child. That's probably like why she has this dream of like running away to like Hollywood and becoming this actress and all this stuff. Like, she constantly watches these old Hollywood movies, and Belle even says that sometimes she'll like watch her mother versus watching the film. And she can see that her mother is there physically with her, but like mentally and emotionally, it seems like she's been transported to another world. Like, she's in the world of this like old Hollywood film versus like reality. She seems to not enjoy her reality, which kind of makes sense too, because like she wants to be in Hollywood, she doesn't want to be in Quebec. She isn't a big Hollywood actress yet, or a big actress period. She works at the Bay, the women's clothing section, in order to, you know, pay her bills, and she is like desperate. Even the grandmother is like, yeah, hopefully she can get this big role, then she could leave the Bay behind and become, you know, an actor like she wants to be. So there's obviously some type of like, there's parallels between the traumas that the mother goes through and Belle, like both ashamed of their heritage and trying to kind of run away from it. And it's really sad. Like, as a woman of color, it is sad, obviously, to see, you know, this character, another woman of color, have this type of shame. Because, like, the shame is there when she's a child, which is, like, extremely heartbreaking. But even as an adult, she is obsessed with whiteness, and she equates beauty to whiteness. She thinks if she can become lighter, she will be beautiful. So I want to get into religion. Now, Belle, obviously her mother was born or Catholic. The grandmother obviously is very religious. Her father, it sounds like he was Muslim. So, but he's not around, obviously. Belle wants to be baptized. She wants to be Christian. She doesn't understand as a child why she's not allowed to be Christian when her mother is, because, you know, she wants to be like her mother. She wants to be beautiful like her. She wants to be white like her. She wants to be Christian like her. And she also wants to be like the other girls around her who are probably white, French, and Christian. But her mother claims that she had a deal with the father, I guess because he's not Christian, he's Muslim, that she would never baptize her. We're not actually sure if that's true or not, because like obviously the mother kind of lives in her own fairy tale land. She may have just not wanted the daughter to be Christian. I kind of suspected, and again, this is just a theory. There's actually nothing in the story that really lets us know this, but like I suspect that maybe there's some religious trauma in the mother's past, because like she didn't want her daughter to be Christian. She chose to not send her daughter to a Catholic school, but to a public school. She claimed it so she could be around, you know, lots of different types of people, since she's a mixed race girl. But like later on, when she's living with the grandmother, you know, baptizes her and sends her to a Catholic school. And when she's basically telling her mother about this, you could see that the mother's really unhappy, but like she can't do anything about it. So there might have been some religious trauma there that she was never, you know, able to get over, or maybe there's some other reason. Maybe it really is just the father. I feel like there's a lot of questions that are kind of left unanswered. I think purposely left unanswered, so like as a reader, you kind of like make your own educated guesses, I guess. But yeah, so like she wants to be Christian. She's not allowed to be Christian, and it's something that she wants badly because she thinks it'll make her more like everyone else. So then in terms of the beauty industry, obviously that is a very huge theme of Rouge. As you know, the title is Rouge. We find out the reason why. First, when Belle goes back to California, so she lives in Montreal because that's where she was born and raised. She did live in California with the mother after a period of time, like later into her teen years, and probably like her early adult years. I think she lived in California, but then she moved back to Montreal and works in like a clothing store. Now I'm about to say something, it's not a spoiler, you find this out literally at the back of the book. The mother passes away. She actually dies prior, like a little before the book begins, and Belle has to go to Montreal. Belle has to leave Montreal for a period of time to go to California for the funeral and to settle her mother's affairs. She sees these bottles, like these lotions and like skincare bottles, red skincare bottles, I think say Rouge if I'm not mistaken on them. And later on she ends up getting like an advertisement for Rouge, and then ends up like finding herself at this like mansion that's like this luxurious spa, again, called Rouge. So that's where the title comes from. Now, in regards to this, like, spa, it's basically very cult-like, very mysterious. She knows that her mother is a part of it. The people make it very clear that they knew her mother, and they also know that she's the mother's daughter. They literally call her daughter of Noel, like that's her title, like daughter of Noel. So they act very strange. Many of the people are either dressed in red or black with veils. So it's a very mysterious, very strange atmosphere. There's also these octopuses that show up. They have like these giant sort of fish tanks with like all these octopuses red octopuses that are constantly on display. So that's a big theme, like octopuses, roses, the color red, the color white, those are all brought up constantly. And in terms of the beauty industry, besides obviously the mystery between the cults, and obviously very early on you kind of suspect that the beauty cults, has something to do with the mother's death, but you're not entirely sure. But there's also obviously themes of how the beauty industry preys on people's insecurities, specifically from a young age. As I mentioned, we see a lot about Belle's childhood throughout this book. And honestly, it's not even really clear through most of the book how the passages of her childhood actually connect to the cults. But like getting close to the end, you start to get all the pieces start coming together. There's a monster that also visits Belle as a young child, and it plants seeds of like anger and resentment towards her mother. Well, technically those seeds were already there, but like he kind of like fans the fans the flames, basically. So, and the thing is, like, throughout the book, I thought this was kind of interesting, but very strange. The interesting thing about it was I wasn't sure if we were actually seeing flashbacks of her childhood, because like Belle would go to this mansion, the beauty cult Rouge, and she would get these free treatments where she would get like this red champagne that she would drink, and then they would take her to the treatment center in like the basement area, and they would like put this cream on her face and then like spray these like sprays in the air that she would breathe in. She'd be told to take like multiple deep breaths, and then she would see like images from her childhood displayed on glass with like the red octopuses, I was correct. The red octopuses in the background, and like her childhood would almost be like displayed on a case, and she would be like floating up close to the glass. So it very much gave like something I would see out of a movie, but I wasn't sure if like she was actually seeing her childhood, or if maybe there was like drugs in the drinks or drugs in the spray, because like they're telling her to breathe it in. So it's like, is that just so she'll be calm? Is there drugs that's like making her hallucinate these things? Are they like suggesting things to her? Like, is this actually her childhood we're seeing? Or is this like something that they're planting in her minds for a specific purpose? Again, we don't find out to the end what's actually happening. So I did kind of like the mystery. What I didn't particularly like, when we see her childhood, there's this monster, as I said, who comes out of her mother's mirror, and he calls himself Seth, but he looks like Tom Cruise, and she believes that like Tom Cruise is coming out of a mirror and like speaking to her, and she's like in love with him and all this stuff. Now, I understand what they were trying to go for. There is definitely a parallel to like fairy tales, particularly Snow White, so obviously with like the evil stepmother and her like magic mirror. That's what that's supposed to have, like her evil or mean mother has this magic mirror, and like Belle is seeing this creature called Seth coming out of it, who she thinks is Tom Cruise. And I understand like they're also trying to show like how parasocial relationships can be very damaging, and how even like celebrities can kind of be used to lure people into the beauty industry, because there's a connection obviously between the monster in the mirror and Rouge. But the fact that they kept bringing up Tom Cruise over and over again, like I understand why it was happening, but like it just felt very strange. I know that like obviously there's a parallel between the mother being obsessed with like actors, particularly male actors in like old Hollywood films, and her being and Belle being obsessed with Tom Cruise, like both of them, you know, because again, there's a lot of parallels between the mother and daughter. Uh, but and it's funny because like Belle thinks that her mother's so different from her. She's beautiful, she's white, she's all the things that Belle isn't. But like there's actually so many similarities between the two. But yeah, the Tom Cruise thing was just so weird. It weirded me out so much. I was hoping it would only have like we'd only get like a little bit of that, but it went on for like most of the book because there were so many chapters that were about her childhood and about the monster in the mirror that she thought was Tom Cruise. So she thought Tom Cruise was like magic and that he was like her boyfriend and he was her first love. Obviously it wasn't Tom Cruise. It's this monster named Seth who's like non-human appearing to her or coming out of the mirror, but he apparently looks kind of like Tom Cruise. But it was just really weird and honestly it made me uncomfortable. I looked at some of the reviews on Goodreads and there are other people that were kind of like, this is kind of weird, as well as on YouTube. There were like a lot of people that were like, the Tom Cruise thing was like strange and went on for too long, and I kind of had the same feeling. I understand why it was happening, but like it just made me uncomfortable. But yeah, so now I want to talk a little bit about the characters, some of the side characters that pop up in this. So obviously the main characters is Belle and her mother, Noelle. But there's also the grandmother, who is just called grandmother, well, grandmama in French. She obviously was someone who also had some type of trauma. We never actually find out what it was. We just know that she's haunted by something because like late at night she'll sit there and just watch like Wheel of Fortune in silence, or sometimes she'll just sit in the dark and stare at a wall, probably because there's something that happened to her that she never got over. So there's obviously that theme of intergenerational trauma with the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter. So that was pretty interesting. The grandmother I thought was a pretty cool character. Again, we don't find out a lot about her past, but she was someone who took care of Belle after a big incident happens, where Belle basically tried to poison the mother. Like Seth got her to take crushed up roses and put them in the mother's like face creams, in her underwear, and on her brush, and like the mother had to be rushed to the hospital. And after that, the mom moved with her boyfriend to California, and Belle had to live with the grandmother. So we do get a little bit of their relationship. It seemed like it was somewhat positive, but you know, the grandmother had her own issues that she was dealing with. Now, another character that pops up a lot is Sylvia. She was the mother's business partner and friend. Sylvia, I did not like her at the beginning of this, and that's partly because I think the mother and Belle did not like Sylvia at the for most of the book. They both thought she was annoying and that she had no fashion sense. Fashion and beauty are both really important to Belle. Well, really more to the mother, and I think it was important to Belle because of the mother. And it said that like Sylvia doesn't have really good fashion sense, which is odd since she's running a clothing store in LA, but yeah. And she's kind of painted as like an annoying sort of woman, but again, that could just be Belle having like this negative opinion of her because of the mother. But later on, at the end of the book, I actually really loved Sylvia because she was like there for Belle. She did try to help Belle throughout the story. Honestly, I was like kind of suspicious of her at first when she was helping her. I thought she was trying to take advantage of Belle. But as it goes along, you realize that no, she actually did consider herself Noelle's friend, not just her business partner. So she did try to help Belle. She was genuine, and she does, you know, form a connection with Belle closer to the end of the story, which made me happy because I think Belle didn't really have a lot of people. She was so obsessed with her skincare and her pursuit of beauty that she probably lived a very lonely life. So I'm glad that she is starting to build a community, because of the things that happened in this book, because of the traumas that she was forced to face. It forced her to open up and change and evolve, and now she's able to like let people get close to her, and that did make me happy. So yeah, I liked Sylvia. Would have liked maybe, I was gonna say I liked a little bit more of her, but honestly no, I think she actually showed up the right amount for this book. Now, some of the other characters I do think I would have liked more of. For instance, Tad, he was an interesting character, though there were things about him that I didn't like at first. Like, there were two occasions at the beginning of the book where he just shows up at the Noelle's apartments that Belle is staying in. Now that her mother's passed away, she has to like clean it up and try and sell it before going back to Montreal. She comes home after the funeral and he's just there cleaning, and she's like, "Who are you?" And he like just like, "Oh, I'm a friend of your mother's. She hires me to clean her windows and that and that, and I figured I'd clean them and da 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 da." And like, yeah, it's probably innocent, but it bothered me because like it's always scary, I'm sure, for any woman to come home and find a strange man in their home or in the place that they're staying in this case. So I thought that was like, he should have been more thoughtful of that. Like, he knew she was coming. He should have known that that would have scared her. And then the very next day, once again, she hears like noise and she thinks that someone is robbing her. So she comes out with like a curling iron to like use as a weapon because it's the only thing she could find. And once again, it's Tad there like cleaning up the place and like squeeging the windows. And again, he just acts like it's no big deal. Now, I understand, like, he was given a key to the place, and he sounds like he may have been, like, sort of like a lover to Noelle, a young lover. But, you know, she's gone, and this is the daughter. Like, you don't actually know her. I thought it was, like, he was trying to help. So he was trying to do something good, but I thought he should have, like, called first and let her know, like, "Oh, I'm going to come over to, like, squeegee the windows and help you clean up." Instead, he just showed up, and I didn't like that. That rubbed me the wrong way. But he was very helpful throughout the story. He was, you know, a good friend to the mom, and he wanted to, you know, help out. I think he knew that the mother was having some trouble at the end of her life and felt guilty that he wasn't able to help her more, save her. So I think because of that, he wanted to help Belle to sort of make up for that, and he did. And he was a cool character. I think I would have liked to find out like a little bit more about his relationship with the mother, if he really was her lover, because we're never actually given confirmation. There's hints here and there that he probably was, but we never know for sure. I also just would have liked to know a little bit more about him, because I feel like he probably had some skeletons as well, and the mother probably helped him with that. Again, I feel like there's a theme of people not being able to save the people that they want to save, so they will like project that feeling of like saving somebody else. So like the mother, we find out at the end, well, not really at the end, throughout the story we get hints that she is trying to sort of protect the daughter from certain things that are happening in the mother's life. And I think she never felt like she was able to properly protect Belle. So I think she probably tried to help Tad because he's young, around Noelle's age. I mean, around Belle's age. Again, we don't find out anything concrete. It's just kind of like hinted that, you know, he is like free, loving, kind of hippie type of guy, goes with the flow. But I suspect that I feel like there probably was some like skeletons, some like something not quite right with him, and she was probably helping him. Again, that's just my theory, maybe I'm wrong. And then obviously he felt like he, you know, she did right by him, and he wasn't able to like be there for her in the end. So he wants to like be there for Belle, and while I feel like kind of forcing his presence on her, he does mean well. he does kind of like tell her like her fix up the apartment for her hire other people. He kind of gives her the suggestion that she should sell some of her mother's antiques downtown so that way she can get some more money, so she doesn't have to like hurry and like sell the property for like next to nothing. She can like take the time, a month or two, to like fix the property up and then sell it at a good price, or even like he kind of gives the suggestion of not selling it but like renting it out as an Airbnb, since there's some other people in the apartment who do that. So he does try to help her. He even like drives her to an antique place to like get a quote for the antiques. So he does try to like help her out. I think he comes over quite often to like screechy the windows and clean everything. So he is really helpful, and he is, I think, you know, a good friend to Noelle and trying to be a good friend to Belle, and I think he succeeded. Would I have liked to see a little bit more about his past? Yeah, I would have. I think maybe it's left, like I feel like there's a lot of things that were purposely left up to interpretation and purposely not answered, so that the reader has to like figure those things out on their own or make their own sort of like assumptions or guesses. But honestly, and I understand that and I respect that, but I would have preferred just like getting a little bit more. So then let's talk about Hudson. Now this is a man, she meets him for the first time at a bar, I think her first night in California. Then she meets him again at Rouge, and she's shocked because he's wearing like a fake beard, a disguise. Now when we first meet him, I am so intrigued by Hudson. We don't know his name, we just know that he is this mysterious man that she saw at a bar. She didn't even really speak to him, she's kind of like raised her glass and like kind of, you know, gave like a head nod or whatever. She doesn't speak to him until she's at Rouge, and it's like kind of like weird because it's like, why is he in disguise? Is he actually a member? If he is, why would he be doing this? She at one point follows him, and she can't stop herself from following him for some reason. It's like her shoes, because she's always constantly wearing her mother's shoes, which are these red sort of fancy shoes. And the shoes just seem to be taking her forward towards him for some reason. But he's like trying to like leave because he's trying to be incognito. But they do kiss at one point. Mostly because like some people, like they're in a tunnel or hallway and some people are about to walk by, and I guess he didn't want attention brought to them, so he had kissed her in order to, you know, cover his face or whatever. But we do get obviously a sense from that he might be a potential love interest, and he seemed very mysterious, and I liked him at first. I had like big expectations for his character, but as it went along, I felt like I liked him less and less, and the character kind of fizzled, if I'm being honest. The ending, he's a part of the ending. The ending wasn't too bad. Like, they're dancing on the beach or whatever. But I don't know, I didn't really like his character. I feel like we didn't learn enough. Like, we learned some background story. He isn't a member of Rouge. His brother was a member who ended up mysteriously dying, and he knows that Rouge is connected to his brother's death, though he doesn't know how or why. He knows that there are other people that have died at Rouge. People have lost their minds, and he basically, at first he was kind of like trying to avoid Belle, but then when he realizes that, like, you know, she is getting deeper into this cult and that she's going to go down the same path as his twin brother, he does try to help her as well. So again, going to that theme of he wasn't able to save his brother or be there for his brother, but he wants to be there and save Belle. There's also, again, the theme of estranged family relationships. Belle obviously had a strange relationship with her mother, and the mother had a strained relationship with the grandmother. And then we find out that Hudson, such a silly name, had a strained relationship with his brother because his brother attacked him when they were young, so he left him with a scar. The brother is also obsessed with beauty like Belle, so I guess he saw like a lot of the same characteristics of his brother in Belle, So he kind of projected that like wanting to save his brother onto Belle, which, you know, it was kind that he was trying to help her, but ultimately he didn't really help her in the end. So it kind of felt like, I don't know, I felt like his arc or his like storyline was pretty flat and pretty anticlimactic, if I'm being honest. I would have liked to get a little bit more from him, like more interactions from Hud and Belle. At the end, they're dancing, and he kind of like, he's kind of out of it because he's had some of the treatments as well. So, and that's one of the things, when you get treatments at this place, you start losing your memories and you slowly start losing your minds. So he's kind of losing it, but he kind of like lets it slip that he fell for her without meaning to. And, you know, I guess we're supposed to think like, oh, this is romantic and maybe they'll end up together. They have this shared experience now, this shared trauma from Rouge. But the problem is that like, I feel like they didn't have enough interactions for them to have any type of like deep connection or deep love for him to be like saying that he fell for her. I don't know. I felt like we needed more interactions between the two of them. Now we have Seth, as I mentioned, he's the creepy monster that comes through the mirror, the mother's mirror, and basically preys on Belle as a child. We find out, obviously, getting closer to the end of the story, that he's connected to Rouge. I guess they send out people to like harvest kids, so they like prey on them as children, and then like as they get older, eventually they make their way to Rouge. I just found his character really weird, if I'm being honest. Like, it was interesting, but it was weird, and I feel like I have a lot of questions about him that were not answered. Again, I do think that was done on purpose. I think there's a lot of questions that are left open-ended, and we're supposed to make our own interpretations, which again, I understand that that's some people's writing style. I just think for me personally, that's not something that I'm super, super into all the time. Sometimes I like that in a book, but in this case, it left me a little unsatisfied. And then the whole Tom Cruise thing was weird. I feel like that went on too long, if I'm being honest. Now, some other characters would be the lady in the red, who's constantly meeting. It seemed like she ran Rouge. Then we have these twins that show up a few times. They're always in black with veils. And then there's also this blonde girl who also wears black, who looks like a fairy tale princess in the stories that Belle likes to read or be told about when she's a child. I actually loved all of those characters, and I honestly wish we got so much more. Like, I would have loved more of the lady in the red. I thought she came across as like pretty glamorous and mysterious, but also very, very strange. Like, she definitely rubbed people the wrong way when she's not at Rouge. Like, at Rouge, people like obviously love her, but we get a scene where Belle and Tad are at the antique shop to get like an estimate for some of the mother's old antiques, and the lady in red shows up and she's acting very strange, and both Tad and the shop owner don't like her. In fact, I think she often frequents this antique store, and the shop owner doesn't actually like her showing up because she is very, very strange. She tries to like lick a statue at one point. It's very weird. But I still found her, like, I'm still fascinated by her despite her weird, well, maybe even because of her weirdness. I wanted to know, like, is she, you know, non-human? Is she like a witch? Is she a vampire? Is she some type of other creature? Or is she just like a strange, normal woman who's just like rich and eccentric? I wasn't totally sure. We don't find out again until the end. But I would have loved more of her. The twins as well, I thought they were interesting. We see them a few times, and what's interesting about the twins as well as the little girl who looks like a fairy princess, they both obviously look like people from her past. Again, the girl looking like what Belle imagined in her mind of a fairy princess. So not even someone that she's actually seen, just something like an image that she created. And somehow this girl is able to look like that. But we find out that it's not a girl, it's an old woman. There's one point where they're meeting and she stands behind the aquarium, and one of the octopuses, oh wait, no, not an octopus, a jellyfish. Oh my god, I've been calling it an octopus this whole time. It's a jellyfish, sorry. I don't know why. One of the red jellyfishes goes by the tank in front of her, and when it goes past her face, Belle is able to see this old haggard woman, and only once it goes past her does she look like the little fairy tale princess from Belle's imagination. So obviously there's some type of magic used there. And then when she meets the twins look like her exes when she was younger in college. She worked at like a Disney resort type of thing where she dressed up as Jasmine from Aladdin, and the twins that she met at her job dressed up as other fairy tale princes and princesses, again going with the fairy tale theme. And she was dating both of them, which caused some drama because like they didn't know that she was kind of like cheating or two-timing both of them. But yeah, these twins that she meets at Rouge look identical. Even she could kind of see past the veils because they're like lace veils. She can see that they look identical. So obviously, for I guess like the people who show up there, you see, or the people that they choose, the selected, they will take images and memories from your past and kind of like project that image in themselves. So that way you like feel a connection to them and probably trust them and get like lured into their web. But yeah, I would have loved to see more of all three because like they obviously have an importance at Rouge. I would have just loved to have more of all three of them. I think they were kind of like the best parts of the story, to be honest. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts of Rouge. I don't know what star system I would give for this. I think I had an idea. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm thinking maybe 6 months to a year from now, I'm going to reread the story. So obviously I have, as I said, I have Bunny. I want to read Bunny at some points. I also want to read more contemporary literature, as well as stories of magical realism, stories that are similar to Rouge. So that way, because, you know, I'm new to this genre, I don't really know much about it. I feel like, you know, 6 months to a year from now, I would have read, you know, a lot more books similar to Rouge, and I'd be able to better understand, like, if this was, like, a really good book or not. As of right now, all I can say is that it's very strange. There are parts of it that I like, there are parts of it that I didn't particularly love. I'm also interested, you know, maybe a year from now, watching this video back to see, after my reread, how I feel. Like, do my thoughts a year from now line up with my thoughts now, or will I have a drastically different, you know, outlook of the book? So I'm interested in that. So I might do a follow-up video. I don't know. We'll see. I do plan to do a Goodreads review for this, so I guess I'll have to choose a star rating. I don't know. It'll probably be in the 3 range, either like a 3-star, 3.5, around there. I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't give it 5 stars. I didn't enjoy it that much. I don't think I would give it 4 either. Mostly because, sorry, I just burped. Mostly because I don't even know what to make of this. This was different from anything I've ever read before. I'm not used to this, so I don't really feel like it would actually really be fair. Like, I'll have to give it a review, like a star review on Goodreads, but I don't feel like it's really fair for me to give that review right now until I've read some more books like this, so I can have like a better understanding of the genre. But I am happy that I read it. I am interested to see if Bunny is going to, I think it will be as strange, because at least from the reviews I've seen, people usually mention how weird Bunny is. So I'm interested to see if it'll be even stranger than a girl falling in love with a monster pretending to be Tom Cruise, or if it would be less strange. I wonder, is there going to be like another cult? Is that like a thing that she does? Is there going to be more magical realism? I'm interested to see what's going to happen in that. I know she has some other books out as well. They're not, I think, talked about as much in Book Talk, like Bunny and Rouge are the ones I see brought up a lot on social media. But I do plan to get through her whole collection, her whole backlog, and read more books with magical realism. So that's, I guess, the takeaway here. I've been talking, well, for a lot here. I didn't mean to speak this much, but if you're still here with me, I hope you enjoyed it. I did enjoy speaking about this and getting my thoughts out there. I'm still not entirely sure how to feel about this. When I filmed this first video, I had a lot of insights after the video that I was like, darn, I should have brought that up. And I'm sure like with the weeks to come, I'll probably have more insights. Like, even though I find it strange and I'm not sure if I actually like this book or not, I can't stop thinking about it. So that has to be a good sign, right? I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about the symbology, the different like connections between characters, the different traumas that the women in Belle's family have. So I feel like I'm having more and more insights. And obviously when I do that reread, assuming that I do the reread like 6 months from now or whenever, hopefully I'll have even more insights, and I'll see if there's any like little new things that maybe I missed the first time around. So I look forward to the future of that. But this is the end of my video. If you stuck around for the full video, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. Put a rose or just a flower emoji in the comments if you made it to the end. Let me know, what was your reaction of Rouge? Like, did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you like Mona Awad's stories? Are all of her stories as strange as Rouge? Let me know in the comments. But as of now, I'm going to be posting this probably on Friday. So have a happy Friday and a great weekend, everyone. Until next time.